So, hello, namaskar, and welcome all for 5 day in-depth boot camp on startups. So, firstly, I would like to know from all of you that what are you doing, why you wanted to join this course, what do you want to learn about startups, what are you doing, what is your job profession, how many are students, so that we can discuss according to the audience needs. So, once kindly introduce yourself, that from where you are and which profession. If you are a student, you can write I'm a student. Kindly write in chat box so that I can know about the audience mix. And these 5 days need to be very interactive because you can only learn when you can interact. Because what is the use of live sessions? That you can interact the most. Okay, Rajesh Verma sir is a chartered accountant is practice. Welcome Rajesh sir to today's session. Okay, SR sir is there. Okay. Okay, he is also chartered accountant from Indore. Nice. Okay, Rajkumar ji is a CMA student. Nice. Okay. Shashidhar is also chartered accountant. Welcome, Shashidhar sir. Is there any startup also participating in the sessions, or all are the professionals only here? Insolvency professional from Hyderabad. Welcome, Krishna ji. Saurabh is working MBA, planning a startup. Okay. Rajesh Verma ji saying I have one startup also. That's really great, Rajesh ji. Of my brother. Okay, okay. So there is a mixed audience. Some are students, some are practicing chartered accountants, some are business professionals, and some are startups also. So, okay, that's a nice mix of the audience, and it will be very nice to interact with you in the next 5 days. So, as you all know, this is a 5 day master course on startups in which we will discuss about what are startups, how this ecosystem is working, how are startups evolving in our country, India, how are the unicorns building in our country, what are the new avenues which have been opened for professionals like chartered accountants, business consultants who want to work in the area of practice of startups. And startup now has become a buzzword. And in these 5 days, we will discuss only about startups. What is Startup India registration? What are the income tax benefits? What are the exemptions available to a startup company? Which company is a startup? What are the emerging startups in India? So today is the first class in which we will decode startups. That what startups are. What are startups doing in Indian ecosystem? Which startups have the new grown age technology which are embedded in our Indian startup system? So let's start the today's session, and I welcome you once again all for today's session. So this is the number one class, master class on decoding startups. So I have written a quote here at the end. It's not about ideas. It's about making ideas happen. Because what startup basically is, it is an idea, a business based upon an idea which solves a problem. You see all of the startups, you see Zomato, it solves the problem of delivery, the food delivery. You see example of Myntra, Amazon, Google, all of them have solved some of a kind of problem. So a business idea which can solve your daily life problem and is innovative and scalable is a startup business. But it's not about idea, it is about making ideas happen. A idea has no value unless it is executed, unless it is implemented, unless it is converted into a scalable and innovative business model. Mark my words, this will be covered in the define. What startup is a scalable and innovative business model. Two conditions are necessary for government registration. Also, it should be a scalable business model and innovation should be there in your idea. So let's begin further and see and dive into the words of startup. So what will be today's scope of our discussion? We will see the definition of startup, what DPIIT, that is Department for Promotion of Industrial and Internal Trade, defines startup as. Why should one do startup? What are the key points of Startup India scheme? What is the benefit of Startup India registration that government gives? What is the startup finance and what are the avenues in that area that Startup India, that we professionals can work upon? How we can help our client to get funding, how to prepare an effective pitch deck so that it can help the client to grab investors from that pitch deck. So we chartered accountants, business professionals can play a huge role in helping a client, and startup practice is a big area to explore in the coming years. Next, we will discuss about the funding cycle. What is the life cycle of a startup? How it begins from an ideation phase. And last, we'll discuss about some of emerging startups in India. So let's begin today's session. Before beginning the session, I would like to show you some interesting facts about Indian startup ecosystem, that how it has evolved after 2015, 2016, when Startup India scheme was launched by our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji from Red Fort on our Independence Day. So let's see some of the facts here. India has now become the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. So India is a developing country, and we have already become world third largest ecosystem after USA and China. So India ranks third in the startup ecosystem ranking regarding about the facilities, the startups coming, the unicorns building here. So we rank third among the startup ecosystem in India. These are the general facts to give an overview that how ecosystem has evolved over a period of time. So next is 115 unicorns are there that have a cumulative valuation over 350 US billion dollar. So 115 unicorns are there. So anybody can tell what is the meaning of unicorn? Because you might read in financial newspapers or the articles that it is a commonly used terms about startups. Unicorn. Mama Earth becomes a unicorn. Physics wala becomes a net tech unicorn. What is the meaning of term unicorn? Can anybody tell in the chat section? Generally talking, unicorn is an animal in fictitious stories. In storybooks, it is an one-horned horse type animal, which is called a unicorn. But what is the meaning of unicorn in the startup ecosystem? Can anybody tell in the chat section? Valuation more than $1 billion. Yes, Saurabh is definitely right. A unicorn is a startup company which values over $1 billion, means near about 8,000 crores. If we convert $1 billion into Indian rupees, it will be around more than 8,000 crores. A company which values over 8,000 crores is called a unicorn in startup language. So I have mentioned the definition also here. What is a unicorn? The definition of unicorn is a venture-backed private equity technology company, means a company which is funded by venture capitalists at a valuation of $1 billion or more. So when a company values $1 billion or more, it is called a unicorn. And there is one more term, decacorn. Can anybody tell what is the meaning of decacorn? Unicorn is a common term we used to hear. But can anybody tell what is the meaning of decacorn? This is the spelling, decacorn. Yes, participants. What is the meaning of decacorn? Unicorn means $1 billion. Deca means 10. Means 10 times the unicorn. A company which has reached to the size which is 10 times the unicorn is called a decacorn. Means valuation of $10 billion. 80,000 crores is called a decacorn company. So these were the two common terms which I discuss in future also. So keep in mind, unicorn is a company valuation $1 billion. Decacorn means $10 billion company valuation. So hope this was a new word for you. So coming to the facts, Bengaluru, as you know, is the startup hub of our country, and it remains the largest unicorn hub in the country with 43 unicorns headquarters in India. 43 unicorn headquarters are there in India, with Bengaluru remains the largest unicorn hub of India. Bengaluru emerged world's seventh largest unicorn hub in India. It is world's seventh largest and India's largest unicorn hub. So Bengaluru, as you all know, is the startup city of India, and many of the startups has came from here. And even we know that if we read articles and newspapers, we see that startups lies in every street of Bengaluru. Many of the startups have been founded in Bengaluru. So Bengaluru has a special significance in startup ecosystem in India, and many of the startups prefer to have their office in Bengaluru, just to have a symbol that Bengaluru is known for the startup hub. And as we all know, IITs, IIM, BITS, these all are very famous for giving the startups to our country. Many of the startups have emerged from IIT Delhi, Mumbai, and many of the other IITs. So two-thirds of the Indian startups are basically from IITs and IIMs. We see mostly of the founders are from IITs and IIMs. But currently the trend is changing also, and we are seeing the rise of entrepreneurship with chartered accountancy. Many of the chartered accountants are also going into the startup ecosystem and starting their own startups. We can see from the Shaman, he is a chartered accountant, and Namita Thapar ma'am is also chartered accountant. Kraya is one of the company whose founder is a chartered accountant. Make My Trip founder is a chartered accountant. So we can see that chartered accountants are also playing a vital role in the startup ecosystem. And now, not from the backside only, from the front facing end, they are also playing a pivotal role in the Indian startup system. And they are coming and bringing their startups to the limelight also. So that is such a positive signal that now not only engineers with chartered accountants are also coming into this practice of startups and building our own companies. That's a really great sign for our profession and community. So these were some of the journal facts which we discussed. So now let's come to the legal terminology startup. What the legal definition of startup? What government recognizes as a startup? No, anybody cannot say that I am a startup company. Government has to certify you that you are a registered startup with DPIIT, Government of India. So, is your company a startup? You have to meet these 5 criteria. Is your company a startup? You have to meet these 5 criteria. You must meet the following criteria. Let me use a pencil. You must meet the following criteria to be considered eligible for DPIIT startup recognition. So what DPIIT means? Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. It is a body specially made for giving startup recognition, managing startups in India. It is a department of Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So what are the 5 criteria? First is company age. Period of existence and operation should not exceed 10 years from the date of incorporation. Means a company which is more than 10 years old cannot be regarded as a startup company. Means you need to be a young company for a startup. What if Mr. Mukesh Ambani says that my Reliance is a startup? Give me all the benefits of startup company. So Modi ji will say, no dear, you are not a startup company. You are not 10 years old. You are near about 50 years old company. For a startup company, you need to be less than 10 years old. Your company's age should be less than 10 years. So period of existence and operation should not exceed 10 years from the date of incorporation. What is your date of birth in companies? That is date of incorporation. And I will show you the certificate also. It is mentioned here, the date of incorporation and the date of validity. The certificate is valid only for 10 years from the starting of the startup if you registered at the initial phase. So 10 years should not be there, more than there. So first point is the company age. Second point is company type. You should be incorporated as a private limited company, a registered partnership firm, or a LLP. For a startup registration, sole proprietors are already out. Sole proprietor cannot apply for a startup status. You need to have a private limited company or a registered partnership firm. Even an unregistered partnership firm cannot apply for the status of startup. You need to have registered partnership firm or an LLP, limited liability partnership. So these 3 are the forms in which we can create a startup. Even a listed limited company cannot gain the status of startup. It need to have private limited company, a registered partnership firm or limited liability company. So annual turnover. Third point is annual turnover. This is the critical point. Should have an amount not exceeding 100 crore. Means your turnover should not exceed 100 crore for any of the financial year since its incorporation. Since your company has been incorporated in any of the coming years, it should not have crossed the benchmark of 100 CR. It is annual turnover. Many people confuse it with cumulative turnover. No, it is to be seen annually. If in any of the single year you cross a turnover over 100 crore, in that year you will cease to exist as a startup. You will not be called as a startup company from that year only in which you exceed the benchmark of 100 crores. So these 3 points are clear to all. So these 3 points are clear to all. Please once write in chat section. Are you getting what I am saying? Yes, private limited company include OPC, because OPC is in status of private limited company also. So any other doubt is there? So company age should not exceed 10 years. It should be a private limited company, registered partnership firm, or limited liability partnership. Turnover in any of the preceding year from incorporation should not exceed 100 crore in any of the year. If 100 crore limit is breached, you will not be regarded as a startup from that year onwards also. All the benefits will be seized. No benefit will be provided which is provided to startups. Now these were the points of quantitative, but these are the most important points for a startup, because when we learn about how to register for a startup, these 2 points are very critical. Entity should not have been formed by splitting up or reconstruction. I have told that one person company can apply for the startup status because OPC is a private limited company only. You see the name ABC OPC Private Limited. So they can apply for the status of startup. So what beneficial is that? Which persons are doing sole proprietorship, they convert the sole proprietorship into OPC and then they apply for the status of partnership. If they do not want to indulge anyone into their business, because private limited company require 2 directors, and you do not want to share someone management, so you can form an OPC and then apply for the status of startups. That is good idea. So the point we were discussing about the original entity. Your startup should be original entity. Your startup should not have been formed by splitting up or reconstruction of already existing business. If some business already existed and you have subdivided it your business, like you see currently Reliance Industries subdivided its one of the subsidiary Geo Financial Services and marked it listed on the share market. Can it be called a startup? No, you should be independent. You should not be formed up by splitting or reconstruction of an already existing business. So it is then one of the important point that you should not be formed by splitting up or reconstruction. Next, the most important point for startups, the fifth criteria, innovation and scalable. So I want to ask you, what is the basic difference between a small optical shop near your house or in your locality that might be titled as Gupta Opticals and a lens cart store? Kindly write with your experience that what is the difference between a small optical shop or a small Karyana shop, between a lens cart and a Reliance Smart Point or the big bazaar that was earlier existed. Scalability, Saurabh is saying. Yes, scalability is one of the factor. What differentiates between an MSME business and a startup? This is my question to you. What is the difference between an MSME business and a startup? Yes, guys, keep interacting because it has to be an interactive session. If you answer, then only I can know that what you think, what are your current views on the MSME and startup, then only we can interact properly. Make the use of live class properly, because in recording you cannot ask. You have to write down to email. But here you can lively ask anything. So keep participating actively. What is the difference between MSME business and startup? Convenience, get lens delivered. Yes. Sarshi, there is telling about the features for lens card, that lens get delivered. It is more convenient. You can use the app for getting your lenses book. CM is saying startup means growth. Saurabh is saying startup can be in multiple locations. That really great. You are interacting. Saurabh is saying that startup can be in multiple locations. Funding is accessible. Yes, the basic difference between an MSME business and startup is innovation and scalability. The Gupta opticals you see in your locality is only there. But if you talk about Lenskart, it has stores all over India. It is innovating. It is investing heavily in research and development. It has store present in Singapore. So that is the basic difference. Basic differences of the thinking process, that you are creating a scalable business model. There is innovation involved in your business. You see what is different between a small Karyana shop and Blinkit. How many have used the app Blinkit? It is one of the fastest growing startups we are using in our daily life. In the metro cities, it is an hugely used. The 10-minute delivery apps they are coming. Zepto, Blinkit, Swiggy, Instamart. How many of are using? The Blinkit app. Saurabh is saying I use. So you might have felt the difference. Then when you ask your local Karyana store bhaiya to deliver, and when you ask Blinkit to deliver, the packaging is very superior quality. Their delivery man delivers on time. If anything is not proper or inconvenient or packaging is damaged, they provide refunds. So startup works in a more kind of a systematic innovation and scalable form. What I say is SOP. Systematic operating procedures are there. But in an MSME business, you find them missing. So that things basically differentiate the startup business and MSME business. So the fifth and the most important criteria for startup is that it should be innovative and scalable. It should work towards development or improvement of a product or service. See this word? Here the pencil is there. Okay. It should work towards development or improvement of a product or service. It is not necessary that there should be innovation, that you think something new. It can also be an improvement in the existing process. The delivery options can be exercised from the form itself earlier also. You can call the local shopkeeper in your locality or your society. He can send someone to deliver at your home. But what Blinkit did, what Swiggy Instamart did, they channelized a 10-minute delivery with the proper SOPs. If I order here sitting in Chandigarh, the SOPs are same. I need to open the app and I can order and it will be delivered within minutes. If I am sitting in New Delhi, the procedure is same. If I am sitting in Bengaluru, the procedure is same. And if I am sitting in Kerala, then also the procedure is same. That is the SOP, the systematic operating procedures, that it is working in the same manner throughout the country through its application. So it is an improvement of a process, the grocery delivery process, or have a scalable business model. While filing an application with Government of India for startup registration, there is one of the questions asked in the form we will see, that explain how your business model is scalable, how your business can generate high potential employment. See this, there is a point. The scalable business model with high potential for creation of wealth and employment. So this differentiates a startup from an MSME business model. It has the potential to create wealth for the country, create employment for the people of our country. It is an improvement or innovation in an existing process. So this is the power of startup as compared to an MSME business. So you need to meet these 5 criteria. These are the 5 criteria in which all need to be met. If any one of them is breached, you will be disregarded as a startup. You will not be called as a startup company. So these 5 criteria keep in mind that you need to fulfill to get a startup DPIIT registration from Government of India. So once have a look at these points. So 10 years is only for registration. One registered, even 10 years, the recognition and benefit continues. No, the benefits are valid only till your certification. And it is valid for 10 years also. 10 years only. After your company age surpasses 10 years, you are not entitled for any of the startup benefits. You can only get the benefits in the age of 10. Once your company gets over the age of 10 years, no benefit will be provided after that. And if any benefit is there, that will be said from that day. It is not only for registration, it is also after that. Because on the certificate, you will find the date. Even if I register after 5 years of incorporation, the date will be calculated from the incorporation date, not from the date I have registered. Okay, you got the point, Shashidhar sir? Okay. So once look these points, then we will proceed further. Okay. So let's proceed further. So this was the definition of startup, which I think you might have now understood that which companies can be called as a startup according to a government of India. So let's proceed further now. Why startups? This is a general question that why we need to do startups. Number one, entrepreneurship. It's boost up, promote startup and entrepreneurship. Core objective of startup is to generate maximum employment because government cannot provide employment to all because India is continuously populating, it is growing at a rapid pace. In a recent data, we see that we have surpassed China in population. So it's such a humongous population. How can government or other private players provide employment to all? It is the startups that can create massive employment opportunities. The new youth need to come into this startup arena so that they can be job providers rather than job seekers. It can encourage the people who have potential to innovate and start their own business. And innovation lies in our blood. We Indians have it in our genes. We are that much innovative that no one is in the world. So we need to find out that innovative idea that can be converted into a business. So it provides economic growth and development to the economy. It boosts the banking and finance sector of the country. It provides economic growth and development. So these are the basic points that government is so much working on these startups. These are the benefits startup provides. So let's proceed further. Now let's discuss about the Startup India scheme. The Startup India initiative, as you all know, was announced by our Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, on 15 August 2015. And you can see the results. In just 8 years of Startup India scheme, we have become third largest startup ecosystem in world. More than 100 unicorns are there in our country already. So in 8 years, we have grown tremendously. So what PM Modi said, we want to enable startups to make India number one in this field. And we have reached number 3 in just 8 years. Startup India, stand up India. PM Modi addressed at his 69th Independence Day from Red Fort. So what this flagship initiative aims? It aims at building a strong startup ecosystem for nurturing innovation and startups in the country that will drive sustainable economic growth and generate large scale employment opportunities. So, government main motive is that to create employment opportunities so that there can be job providers rather than job seekers, and government is ready to support you. There are so many funds, many incentives, many mudra loan schemes are there that are provided to you. So we will see the benefits of Startup India registration in further PPT. Further to this, an action plan for Startup India was unveiled by PM of India on 16th January 2016. So on 15 August 2015, it was announced that Startup India scheme is going to be launched, and action plan was unveiled on 16 January 2016. And now 16 Jan every year is celebrated as Startup Day in India. So remember this date, that 16 January is celebrated as Startup Day in India. Action plan comprises of 19 action items: spreading cost, simplification, handholding. These are just theory written here. So basic motive is to promote entrepreneurship and startup, which can give economic growth and generate employment opportunities. So let's proceed further. Yes, Government of India has made fast-paced effort towards making the vision of Startup India initiative a reality. Substantial progress has been made under the Startup India initiative, which has stirred entrepreneurial spirit across the country. So, after the Startup India scheme has been launched, our country, as I told, has been massively growing in terms of the ranking or the ecosystem building here. Now, recently I visited one of the seminars conducted by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India itself in Mumbai Startups Fair. That was first of its kind of an initiative by our institute also. So many of the startups were there from Odisha. Odisha is regarded as one of the poorest state, I may say, but there was immensely very good startups from there. So it has spreaded an innovative entrepreneurial spirit across the country. This is the department I was talking about, Department for Promotion of Industrial and Internal Trade, DPIIT. This department is mandated to coordinate implementation of Startup India initiative with other government departments. So keep in mind, you have to apply to DPIIT for startup registration. It is a department of Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So let's begin further. Okay. So this is the official website. Here's this. So this is the official website, Startup India portal, www.startupindia.gov.in. Tomorrow we will learn about the startup registration process. So then we will visit the website and also see that what other facilities are there on this website and how to register for startup registration. Today I'm just giving you a glimpse and telling you the web mark, that www.startupindia.gov.in is the website on which all the details regarding startup is there. Okay. So now coming on the what are the benefits of Startup India scheme? We have talked a lot about that. Startup are so good. That's a fancy word we see. Startup India scheme is there. Government is taking the action. So what actually are the benefits which are being provided to startups? So DPIIT recognized startups are eligible for following benefits. So let's see what are the benefits provided. Intellectual property rights. So if you know, and if you have any client for whom you have taken trademark registration, so there is an 4,500 rupees waived of means 9,000 is the fee for startup and 50% is waived for the MSME clients having Udyam registration. Similarly, the benefits for patent fees there in the startups. There is benefit waive of 80% for startups. Let me proceed to the next slide. I can show them. Yes. Yes. So let's see the financial benefits. Startup will get an 80% rebate on the patent cost. This means that if and when a startup applies for a patent, the government will come its to aid by funding the defense of the patent. If the rest of the amount will be funded to you by government, the company will just get a rebate of 80% in the fees. Moreover, the government will also pay the fees of the facilitator and help obtain the patent, because the fees you are paying to facilitator for obtaining the patent, that also be provided by the government. Patent registration and protection of intellectual property right will be faster process online. For startups, it is 80% rebate on patent cost. And if you are also holding Udyam registration, your trademarks can be applied at a mere government cost of 4,500. For that, you need to have an MSME registration. Then you can get trademarks at 4,500 rupees, and financial benefit up to 80% on patent cost is there. So this was the first benefit which DPIIT recognized startups get, that is the intellectual property. Because for the startups, the intellectual property is their main thing. Because if I make this tick, what you recognize? If I make this tick, which brands come to your mind? Kindly write in one chat box that if I make this tick, which brand comes to your mind? Yes, guys. There are then over 16 participants voting. Yeah, Kai, participate in the chat section. 3 roses, the tick mark brand. Anyone? And it's Nike. So the tick mark is IPR, intellectual property right. For startups, IPR protection is very necessary, because in the initial phase itself, they are not able to protect their brand. Any of the big player can use their name or their fame and make it a big brand themselves. So for a startup, you also advise your client that IPR protection is very important. You should immediately register your trademark after finalizing your company's logo, and many of the benefits are also there, as you see. So IPR benefits we discuss. Next is election in public procurement norms. Because public procurement norms mean the tenders that is issued, there are certain restrictions of turnover, experience, but for the startups and MSMEs, there is relaxation in that. You see this? Yes. Startups in the manufacturing sector are exempted from adhering to the criteria of prior experience or turnover. This is done without any relaxation in quality standards or technical parameters with regard to public procurement. You need not have the turnover or experience requirement for applying in the tenders, and government usually benefits and give priority to the MSME and startups in the tenders they issue. So this is the second benefit that is provided to an MSME or a startup. In public procurement norms, you get the exemption of experience and turnover. Next is self-certification under labor laws. As you know, there are labor laws applicable, the Gratuity Act, PF Act, ESI Act, or the other labor laws, and the Environmental Protection Act 2005, I think so, 2005 is there, which is applicable to startups. There, self-certification is there. There is no need of government official visiting your place. You can self-certify that we are following this labor laws and environmental laws we are following. You need to only self-certify that. This is one of the benefit that is provided to startups. You see here, no inspection is there for first 3 years regarding labor law. Self-compliance and self-certify under 3 environment laws. You need to only self-certify that we are complying with the environmental laws, and for the first 3 years, there will be no inspection under labor laws. So that is quite an interesting benefit also provided to startups. So were you aware of these 3 benefits I told that is provided to startups? Kindly once write in chat section, because only I have been speaking for the last 50 minutes. Were you aware of these benefits, the 3 we discussed? Saurabh is saying no. Others knew these benefits. Amit sir is saying also no. Okay. So, okay, you didn't knew this earlier. So now you are knowing this and can help your clients getting this startup registration and aim this benefits also. Okay, let's proceed further. So these three we have discussed. Next is fund for startup. Government has basically introduced some kind of seed funds that is providing special funding to startups only. The funds have been set up which is providing to startups. There are state startup awards in which startups send their ideas, their pitch decks to government, and if government likes the idea, they provide funding to startup from that startup funds. Even banks and other the lending players have been asked for the funding requirements to startup. So this is a general point that various funds have been set up for the startup for providing startup registration, for providing funding to startups. Next is faster exit for startups. Faster exit for startups. Let's see this point now. Because startup business depends on the many risks. A startup business comes with many risks. So there need to be some kind of an facility provided to startup so that they can easily wind up their business. Because as you know, compliances are so much there that it is even more difficult to shut down a private limited company than forming it. Formation is now very easy, but still, as one of the participants told that he is an insolvency professional, he might be knowing the difficulties and compliances involved in insolvency or shutting down a business. But for startup, it can be only done in 90 days. There is very faster winding up process for startups. Closure and winding up will be a quicker process. You can just shut up your startup in 90 days if your idea doesn't work. Closure and winding up will be quicker process just in 19 days. 90 days, 90. Okay. So this was one of the benefit that is provided to startups. Next is Startup India Seed Fund. I have already told that there are seed funds which is provided to the ideation phase startup. Next is section 56 to 7B. It will be discussed in the fourth session. That is the angel taxation benefit which is provided to startup. And one is the 80 ISC benefit, that is tax holiday for startup for the 3 consecutive years. Even if you are earning profits, you will not you are not required to pay tax for the 3 consecutive years. That is section 80 IAC that will be discussed in detail in 4th and 5th session by CM Manoj Lamba sir. So section 56 to 7B on angel taxation and 80 IAC will be discussed in the 4th and 5th section in great detail with the process to apply also. So this is one of the also benefits. And there are so many programs that are conducted on Startup India website. You see, physical events or international events are also conducted for startups, in which entrepreneurs from all over India are called up to meet and greet. There are online events, there are podcasts for women entrepreneurs. There are so many programs that are regularly conducted by startups for startups by Startup India. So you can access the website. Tomorrow we will see the website, and then I will show you that so many functions are there for the startups to do on that website. So these were the basically benefits that are provided to startup. The tax benefit will be discussed in the 4th and 5th section in great detail. And once go to the slide that some point should not be remaining. Financial benefit I have told you. Yeah, registration benefit. As I told you that there is an mobile application and website. Now it has been merged to the single window in which you can apply for the startup registration at single place only. You can just file up the form. It's just takes about hardly 1 and 2 hours to file up that form, and you can register for the startup through 100% online process. No need to stand in queues or visit any government official or any office. A single point of contact has been set up for all registration based queries on Startup India. So this is the benefit once more. This is the financial benefit we discuss about. As I told that income tax exemption is available for the 3 consecutive financial years. This we will discuss in 80 IAC. Ignore this point currently. This will be discussed in 80 IAC. So ignore this point currently. There is one chat section. Can you explain again patent? Rajkumarji, I told that there is 80% waiver in the patent fees. If 100 is the fee, 80 will be provided you by the government. You need to pay only 20% of the patent fee. And even the fee paid to the professional facilitator, that can be also funded by the government. That I was asking, that in IPR, the startups get benefit, in patent and trademarks. It is up to 80% rebate. Yes, government will reimburse to us. Miji Singh, government will reimburse to us, we only pay 20%. Rebate on 28. Just wait a second. You have cough problem, so just wait a second. Yes. So Amit is asking that government will reimburse to us, or we have to pay only 20% fee. I think so only 20% fee will be payable by us. Rest 80% will be funded by government. I am not 100% sure on this, but I think so that only 20% need to be paid. So these were the registration benefits we discussed. Income tax benefits will be discussed in 80 ISE, and these we have already discussed. So these were the general benefits provided to DPIIT registered startup. So let's proceed further. Okay. So let's have a look at this data. So 80 ISE exemption startup is provided to currently 1167 startups only. So it is quite and difficult to get 80 ISE exemption, that is 3 years consecutive tax deduction from Government of India. Currently, there are near about 1 lakh startups registered with DPIIT in India, and the funding has been done to 3,557 startups. These are the participants on the Startup India portal. There are near about 6,56,000 participants or the registered users on Startup India portal, out of which 1 lakh are near about startups, and nearly only 1,200 income tax exemptions are given by Interministerial Board of 80 ISE. That will be discussed in fourth session. That what is Interministerial Board only, but here know the data that nearly only 1,200 startups have got that 3-year deduction. So it is quite an difficult to get that deduction, and how to get that and what are the points necessary will be discussed in the fourth session in great detail. So this was the just general data. So here I am just taking a 2-minute break, and meanwhile, if you have any doubt, can write in chat section. Then we will proceed further with stages of startup, that what are the different stages of a startup. So today we are just building a basic block, because many of you are beginners who are learning about the startup for the first time. So I want to firstly clarify all that, how startup ecosystem is working, what are the benefits. Then only we can understand in great detail about startup registration or the other benefits. So till now, how was the session, and did you learn something new? Please write in chat section once. If you have any doubts till now, you can also write in chat section. And how was the session till now? You can also tell me. And did you learn something new? Please once write in chat section, then we will proceed further. Thank you, Amit ji. Yes, other participant, how they felt the session was till now. Amit ji, Amit Chandwani ji, Joy ji, Krishna ji, Om Prakash ji, Rajesh ji, Om ji, Rajkumar ji. There are so many participants. Shashidhar ji, Saurav ji, Shiv ji. Good. Shashidhar is saying thank you, Shashidhar ji. Only 2-3 participants are actively part. Krishna ji is saying nice briefing. Thank you, Krishna ji. Only 3-4 participants are actively participating. Ramanda is saying good going. Session is good, but so far only basic religion of learning. But you are delivering nicely. Thank you, Rajesh ji. Firstly, Rajesh ji, I am building the basic block now because many here are new about the startup. So what startup is basically about, I am telling that. Rajkumar ji is nice, sir. Okay, so till now it's going fine. So, okay. Now, stages of startup. First is the formation stage. Next is the validation stage. Third is the growth stage. Firstly, you need to find out the problem. Because I told at the beginning itself, that a startup is based on an idea solving a problem. So firstly, for any of the startup, if any of the client come to you and you want, and he tells, sir, I want to build a startup. So you ask, what is the problem you are trying to solve? So basically the first process for startup building is ideation stage. That is the problem solution match. Because I earlier told that each of the startup is based on some kind of a problem it is solving. So firstly, you need to identify the problem your startup is trying to solve, and you need to find a solution to that problem that should be able to be converted into a scalable business model. So firstly, in ideation stage, you see, you need to find out the problem and solution fit. In the next part, you need to convert that idea into a concept that can be converted into a scalable business model, and it should be innovative itself. And next is the vision and founder fit. You should be committed to that idea. You should have the knowledge, you have the whole framework that how that idea will be converted into business. Next is validating. Validating is product and market fit. You have an idea, but you do not know about the market fit. Suppose you have an idea solving the problem for the elderly age people, but you are targeting to the youth, to the infants, to the parents. So you need to find out that your product is suitable for the market fit. There need to be exist market for that product. Because we have seen on the shows like Horses Stable, Shark Tank, and many of the times Shark says that we do not think there is market for that product. Many of the funny pitches are also there. Some kind of a zip liner, some kind of other that tell about that there is no market for that product. So your idea should match with the market fit, that there need to be suitable market to target for that product or idea. That is the validation stage. Next, when your idea is done, your problem, your solution problem fit has been done, vision or founder fit has been done, your co-founder is ready with the idea, then you go into the market, and then business model is established, and then you start growing and grabbing the customers. So this is how the startup is formed. First is the ideation stage, then concept is formed, then you need to commit yourself, then it is valid through the market fit, then scaling is done, and then establishment of this business is done in the industry. So formation, validation, and growth are basically the three major bifurcation of stages of startup. Because while filing the application of Startup India registration, it will ask that in which stage your startup is working. There is the ideation phase, growth phase, validation phase. You need to tick mark that my startup is in the ideation phase. It is pre-revenue. It is in validation stage. It is growth stage. So one participant is asking, what is pre-revenue? Okay, pre-revenue startup means a startup which is based on an idea. Its ideation stage has been final, but yet not have started earning. No revenue is there in the books. It has not started operations. Just whole of the technology is built, the idea fit is done, problem solution fit is done, vision founder fit is made, but till now it has not earned a revenue. That is a pre-revenue startup, because in the pitches also you might have heard, sir, we are a pre-revenue startup. So pre-revenue startup is a startup which has completed its ideation and validation stage, but currently not started earning. So that is called a pre-revenue startup. So these were the basic stages of startup. Before fundraising questions, yes, we will discuss about this. Here are the ways for funding to a startup. First of the main problem that startup faces is funding. So what are the various ways to fund your startup? First is bootstrapping. Bootstrapping, also called as self-funding, is an effective way of startup financing. When you initially start a business idea, you take your self-earned finances or the collective cumulative income you're saving, or from your parents, relatives, family, friends. That all funds come under bootstrapping. That is self-funding. So first of the funding is bootstrapping, that you fund your startup from your own funds, the internal funds. That is the basic funding, bootstrapping. Next is the crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is basically for the social startups. There are many startups that are working in social domain. So crowdfunding is the practice of funding a project or venture by raising many small amount of money from a large number of people, typically over the internet. It may be in the equity form or in the donation form or in the grant form. Like you have many times seen the ad of keto on YouTube. That is for the social motive. So it is a social startup that needs crowdfunding for supporting the social cause. So crowdfunding is one of the good method for social startups also. And there can also be crowdfunding for the equity based startups that can give you a certain amount of equity for the amount invested. But mainly social startups work in crowdfunding, like keto you have seen on YouTube ads. Next is the angel investors. The most common method of funding with the startups is angel investors, because in the beginning angel investors are the individuals which have the surplus cash, which invest in upcoming startups. They offer mentoring to startups. Who are angels? Which provide mentoring to startups, advice along with capital. Means they not only provide only advice, they provide capital as well as advice. Because many times they say we have some angel investors on our board. So who are angel investors? Who at the inception of an idea invested in the startup, and now they are on the board itself and holding the position on the board of directors. So angel investors have helped many Indian startups, like Unacademy was funded by angel investors, CrownIt, Wittyfeed, Book Events. These are some of the startups which got angel investors. And now angel investors concept is very famous nowadays. Many of the renowned chartered accountants are also acting like angel investors. And what is the now concept going on? That is equity advisory fee. Many of the chartered accountants I have seen as not charging cash as a fee. They are charging equity advisory fees. For the advisory, they are charging the equity in the startups. Some of the angel investors are Mr. Ratan Tata, Rajan Anandan, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, Sachin Bansal. These are the famous angel investors which have funded the Indian young startups, and now they have grown to such an heights. Unacademy is a renowned name. Next is the venture capitalist. Now, VCs are the professionally managed funds. These are not like small angel investors. These invest in huge lump sum amounts, in crores, and they take a substantial part of your equity. Angel investors invest in much beginning of your startup, but venture capitalists invest in companies that have a huge potential to grow. usually called as VCs, like Bloom Ventures, Nexus Venture, Access, Tiger Global, SoftBank, you might have heard. They invest in business against equity and generally have an exit when there is an IPO. Like there was a startup IPOs recently in the previous few years of Paytm, Nykaa, Policy Bazaar. Currently, Mamaearth IPO has closed its IPO. It is due for listing. So VCs exit when there is IPO or an acquisition. So VCs invest in certainly huge amounts, but angel investors invest in much earlier stage, and the amount invested by them is much less as compared to venture capitalists, because venture capitalists usually invest when an idea is properly validated and idea is working good. So venture capitalists are much big players and professionally manage funds for startups. Next are funding for incubators and accelerators. So early stage businesses can consider incubator and accelerator programs as funding options. So what are incubators? Incubators like a parent to child, which provide basic infrastructure, shelter, tools, training, networking. Because when a young kid starts up a startup, he do not have the resources, he do not have the infrastructure, do not have the training, do not have the mentorship, do not have the network. So here incubators come into the picture. They support startups like a parent to child. Like a parent take care of a small infant kid, incubators mainly are set up by some of kind of universities, some of the business networks, or even governments have set up the many Atal Innovation Kendra, you might have heard, the Amity Innovation Kendra, Angel Prime, IAN Business Incubator, Startup Village. So these kind of incubators are there, which are providing basic shelter and infrastructure to startups. And accelerator are same like incubators, but they provide support when you are little bit big, when you know now how to run a business. Your business has been formed now, it need to scale up, it take to giant leap. Incubator help in much beginning, but accelerators come into picture when your business has been grown to such a level, and they can help you. One of the world famous accelerator company is Y Combinator, if you have heard. It is US based company, and it provide training, and it is much rush to get training from that Y Combinator. It is the world famous accelerator, might you have known and read about in newspapers or not. So that is incubators and accelerator that can provide funding with government programs that offer startup capital. Like I told you that government has launched many funds for startup, which have provided up to 100,000, no, that is 10,000 crore startup fund in union budget 14-15, and many Mudra loan have been provided to extend benefits to 10 lakh SMEs. So these are the government loans that is provided, Mudra loans to MSMEs and startups. And last is the bank loans, that is the journal place that we go to have funds. Bank are the first place that entrepreneur go when think about funding. Bank provide two kind of funding, as we all know. One is the capital loan funding, working capital funding that they provide against collateral or debtors or stock. Funding for banks involves process of sharing business plan and valuation. Here comes the role of chartered accountants again. Like you prepared the projects report earlier, now the pitch decks needs to be prepared. When funding is to be taken, pitch deck is presented by the startup founder to the banks, to funding houses, to VCs, to angel investors. How to effectively prepare a pitch deck will be studying in the coming days. How to prepare a pitch deck, how to help your client to prepare a pitch deck, what is an effective pitch deck, how should your business model look like, what need to be displayed, what are the financials that need to be put on the slides. So banks can offer some kind of loan to you, and project reports, pitch deck reports, financials. Then comes the role of chartered account only, and funding is an aspect where chartered accountants can massively help their clients, because we can form a company, we can form a startup for them, but where the client pays us is the funding requirements. And now comes the funding questions only, where professionals can play an important role. First is, how much fund should I raise? How can client know? Client is just an estimate. He will say, sir, I need a fund about 50 to 60 lakh. But there is a difference of 10 lakh in 50 to 60 lakh. You can critically analyze its business model and determine that what is the fund requirement currently. What are you thinking to achieve and what is the fund required for achieving that? When should I raise money? This is the important question. That if I should raise money till now, currently, or should I defer my plan to raise money? At what stage should I not? Is it the right time for the client to take the funding? You need to advise on that. What are the relevant sources of finance for me and how should I prioritize them? How to take funding? What are the relevant sources of finance for them? How to prioritize them? Should you dilute equity? Because equity is the most precious thing for a startup company. A startup company should preserve its equity. You should advise your client that do not dilute equity. You can issue equity convertible bonds or debentures that can be converted into equity. You can issue debt instruments, you can issue preference shares, but preserve your equity share capital. Can a pre-revenue startup also get funding? This is the basic question the startups have. Yes, pre-revenue startups are eligible for funding. Many angel investors, many business groups, many incubators provide funding to pre-revenue startups because they know that idea has an worth. They have implemented the whole process and they only need to be executed now. So pre-revenue startups can also get funding. You can help them prepare the project report, financials, projections. Then only then they can funding now. So there comes an important role of you in this area. How much equity should I get? Like you see, when we dilute our capital, they say, sir, 10 lakh for 5% equity, 1 crore for 0.1% of our company. So who gives that figure? We chartered accountants, we finance professionals. So this is a huge domain for us. And we are the experts in this domain and can provide this service to our clients. How should I give equity when I am unable to value my startup? Because client is working on the startup business. He do not know about finance. We are the experts in the finance. We can help them to get a fair valuation of their startup. How should I give equity when I am able to get the valuation of my startup? So we help them to get a fair number, that this is the fair number for your startup. How should I reach out to investors? How that the startup gets access to the investors? We can help the client to get access to the investors, the angel networks. Recently, ICI is working tremendously in this. Startup Manthan, startup seminars has been organized in throughout country. So there need to be connected a network of incubators, accelerator with chartered accountants, and we need to act actively in this ecosystem so that we can grab clients and get into this new arena of startup practice. What is the right structure or instrument? Should I dilute my equity? Should I issue preference share? None of your client would know what preference share is, but preference share can also be issued. Why not we cannot issue preference shares? We can issue convertible debentures, which can be converted into equity. Firstly, preserve equity. So that is the guidance you can provide your client. And these were the basic fundraising questions which client has to face or the entrepreneur, young kid has to face when need to dilute his equity, dilute his funds, or dilute his company's and want a valuation. So you have to help him grab the opportunities here. So these were the funding aspects we discussed. So did you got the whole points or any doubt is there? Please kindly tell me. Yes, everyone. All okay, okay. So here are the huge potential opportunities immediately available for chartered accountants in startup ecosystem. As I earlier told, I visited one of the conference at Mumbai Startup Fair at Geo World Convention Center conducted in June 23, where I was amazed to see that there are a lot of young chartered accountants coming into startup ecosystem. They are building their own startups, working into the startup practice only. So here lies the huge domain, but we need to explore first at what are the opportunities. So here lies the opportunity, the funding part, the projection part, the pitch deck part, the networking part. Here lies the business part. So yes, everybody got the point. Yes, Aditya ji, Amit ji, Joy ji, Krishna ji, Om ji, Rajesh ji, Rajkumar ji, Ramanda ji, SR ji, Shashidhar ji, Saurabh ji, Shiv Prakash ji. Are you all getting the points? Okay. Okay, let's proceed now further. So as we all know, last decade was the startup of edtech players. There was startups Unacademy, Byju's, Vedantu, which ruled the market in the last decade. But now the upcoming areas of startup, we can guide our clients. That are the first is agri-tech startup. EdTech, fintech startups have emerged as winner in this decade. But new age startups will be in areas of agriculture. As we all know, India is the agriculture-based economy. Still, our GDP mainly comes from agriculture. So, the basic potential of Indian startup ecosystem lies in agriculture. We can see how drone is empowering the agriculture structure, how drone is providing pesticides, fertilizers from the space. Recently, there was an amazing startup of Jugadu Kamlesh, if you have seen on Shark Tank. How many have seen that pitch of Jugadu Kamlesh? How many have seen the pitch of Jugadu Kamlesh? That was an amazing agri-tech startup. Have anybody watched this pitch? If not, today write Jugadu Kamlesh pitch on YouTube and you can see what this young kid has built. He has in the pitch told that his father faced the problem of carrying that huge trolley on his back which can cause spine problems to farmers, and that was so heavy to carry and sprinkle all the farm seeds. But he made a machine which can walk like a small trolley in the agriculture fields and can pesticide and provide spray to whole of the farms. So innovation lies in the rural areas of India. There are so many clients which are into the pisciculture, the fish farming, the apiculture, the honeybee farming. And there was recent one startup from Haryana which have converted from honey branding. He was dealing into the honey, the apiculture we say. So he has converted a startup out of that. Many of startups here in Punjab have come across the natural organic tattva, organic mantra, country delight, one of the startup working in organic domain. The milk startups you see, milk basket. So agriculture startups are so many and huge potential and scope. Next is the travel tech. As you all know, India is a country of heritage and culture, and lot of foreign tourists love to visit our country. So travel tech is the next domain. Recently, there is a startup Exigio, and recently IPO is also in the news. There is an unlisted IPO or unlisted share of Exigio. It is a startup which has recently created a box which is linked with Google, which can help you in deciding your whole travel journey. That where to eat good, where to live good, where to stay, where to book flights, which site is good, how can you assess these areas, how is the people of that area, what is the women's safety in this area, is it safe for solo travelers, should you stay in this hotel? So that guides as a whole machine for startups, for travel tourism. So travel tech is another area which need to be explored in the current coming decade. Next is the health tech. We have seen the startups like NetMeds, PharmEasy, 1MG, which have converted the startup, which have converted the pharmacy business into startup models because they knew the problem that in the big cities, both husband and wife are busy in their office routines, their job routines, and their elder parents face the problem to get consultation, medicines, and there they targeted. There they launched the online pharmacies where you can order medicine sitting at home. So health tech, seeing the lifestyle of the currently people who are so much dependent on technology. Health tech is going to be the future of health technology. Many of the startups coming in health tech segment. Next is the green technology. As you can see the situation of Delhi, it is the world most polluted city now. In certain areas, AQI level has reached about 700. So green tech startups here need to play a technology role. When we enter the Delhi, we see a huge garbage hill. So green tech segment is there, in which there are startups coming like Scrap Uncle, which have transformed the kabadi walas we say, the scrap pickers we say, to green heroes. They come and pick up the waste from your house. They do not do any kind of, we say in Hindi, dhandlabaji, any manipulations in the weight. They come to your house, weigh the scrap, and pay you as per the determined price. That is the green tech segment we are working in. So these are the areas in which the next 10 years lies. You will see a lot of startups in the next 10 years in these four areas. So the MSME clients you are having, the existing sole proprietorship clients are having, you tell them the potential scopes, the areas. We do not guide them. We are just busy in doing tax audit, ITRs and GSTs. We are not telling them the opportunities available, the potential avenues available. We ourselves are restricted to the tax audit filings and income tax filing. We do not tell them these new areas. So let them explore, let them tell. Even your client will increase and he will be happy that my CA Saab has done something good for me, guided good to me. So these were the upcoming areas in startup. So now let's look at some of the Indian startups which have become a daily part of our life from the last decade. Nykaa, as you all know, recently listed on the stock market, and its founder Falguni Nayar became the richest woman in India just a single day. Paytm now is back on its track. It was a highly overvalued IPO, but when in 2016 demonetization was there, then everybody saw it as a problem. But Paytm grabbed as an opportunity. Before demonetization, anybody knew Paytm? But now, on every smartphone, you can see the Paytm app, Google Pay app. The UPI is the revolution we have created. The digital India we talk about. The UPI technologies, whole world is appreciating India. So Paytm is one of that app. Zomato. Today's kid cannot live without Zomato. If parents are out, mother is busy in some work. We do Zomato. Swiggy is there. Delivery, which solves the courier problems. Earlier, the couriers got lost. There was no organized way of tracking the couriers. Blue Dart and Delivery came and organized the whole system of courier business in India. MobiKwik is similar to Paytm. Then comes the Policy Bazaar. Insurance industry was highly unorganized. Policy Bazaar combined it into a digital platform where you can which you can compare the insurance policies. You can effectively select an insurance policy. So you need to identify the problem. There comes the Pepperfry, online furniture business. Then comes the Ola. So these all Indian startups have transformed the Indian startup ecosystem in the last 10 years. So we need to learn from the existing startup stories and help our clients to build upon new ideas and help them to build a scalable and innovative business model. So what is the conclusion for today's class? That lot of opportunities are there in startup ecosystem. Grab it as early as possible. Still, India is a developing nation. There is a huge potential in youth of this country. Invest in India. That is going to be a big story. Entrepreneurship and technology combined with innovation is the base root of startups. Entrepreneurship and technology combined with innovation is base root of startup. Har startup, har ghar startup. All the best to all of you. So this was from my side for today. Tomorrow we will learn about how to register startup on DPIIT on portal, and we will discuss about pitch decks. We will discuss about the other opportunities of shareholding agreement, founder agreement. So this was all about today. If anybody has any doubts, can ask me in the chat section. I am here for next 5 minutes. So thank you everybody for being with us. Yes, after the course get over, full presentation will be shared to you, sir, of full 5 days. So these are the details. You can message me or sir, please again angel investor. Explain angel investor. Okay. So Amit ji, angel investors are usually the high net worth individuals who invest in the startup. Like in share market, we invest in the reputed companies. But angel investor is an individual who help you in the ideation stage. If I have an idea, angel investor likes that idea, I pitch to them. And if they like, they can invest in my company at a much earlier stage. Because at that stage, my equity will be cheaper. So angel investor is an investor who believes in the entrepreneur and the idea rather than the financial or the long-term prospect. He haven't believed that this idea, this entrepreneur will turn this into reality, and he invests at a much earlier stage. He is a high net worth individual. VCs are actually highly managed fund, the big fund houses which invest. But angel investor is like a single sole investor which invest in your idea. Basically saying anybody can be angel investors who support an young startup with funding and mentorship. They also want interest. Basically, they depend on the agreement with the startup owners. There can be a interest-based payment to them if they give them as a debt, or they can also take equity. That is between the agreement made between the angel investor and the entrepreneur. They can be in the both ways. Because in Shark Tank, what we see, they are only angel investors that are investing, because sometimes they take equity for a certain amount, and sometimes they also give them money as in debt for which they charge certain amount of interest. So they can be both ways. Thank you, sir. It is an awesome. Thank you, Amit ji. Yes, Shashidhar ji, you can have both startup and MSB management can get both benefits. You can take both benefits as well. In this time of competition, how to manage funds for the business. So are you asking from the startup point of view or even professional point of view? Because answer vary from both of point. So Aditya you are an entrepreneur or an chartered accountant? Both, sir. Okay. So that's really great. So how to manage funds? So it is depends upon the business type you are dealing into, because every business type is unique in itself. So it is not just a journal question. It is a very specific question according to a business, that how to manage funds for a particular business. Very good working. Thank you, Shivji. So other participants, please also tell that how was the session and did you enjoyed it? And we will meet tomorrow at 3:30 again and discuss about startup registration and the pitch deck part as in agriculture field. Okay. Sir, you can get me in touch with my this number 9034071639. We can discuss in detail regarding the startup business of in which you are working, and because it is very specific, we need to discuss in detail that what kind of business is that, how to fund manage them. Informative session. Look forward to session tomorrow. Thank you, Saurabh ji. You can also mail your business idea that we can discuss, sir, to our email ID support@bizgyan. Shishidhar saying is thank you, sir. Sure, sir. Thanks. Nice session. So, okay, team section. Thank you. Over to you for the conclusion part. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. Jai Hind, Vande Matram. Meet you tomorrow again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Okay, see you then. Thank you, sir.